Welcome to the Freedom Founder podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, sometimes in life, we have some tumult that we must go through. And sometimes we should be writing these things down so that we can tell others and help them learn from our experiences and maybe even laugh a little along the way, because you know what? There are circumstances looking back that we can learn from and laugh from. So my guest today, Merit Kahn, is someone who has had different experiences in her life, has drawn on those, has helped others learn, continues to do so, and has even done a one-woman comedy show on some of these topics and life experiences. So Merit, well, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, I always like to start these conversations with just a preface on what really got you into the entrepreneurial space, or when did that occur, and what was that early foundation for you?
I started my entrepreneurial journey in 1998. I had been working in radio. I was a general sales manager for a radio station in Chicago, and the station was being sold, and I was kind of evaluating what's my next step. I looked around, and in the radio business, there weren't really too many women in management leadership roles that also had families and lives. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, this may be the right time for me to make a move. And I opened up a sales management, training, coaching, consulting business, and had a lot of success doing that, and learned the benefits of being an entrepreneur, where you can work way more than you ever did, and pretend you have all the freedom in the world.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. And sometimes people see what is the current outcome and don't look back on the experiences that were acquired along the way that got you to where you are today. So
Yeah. I think what I wanted to be was, I wanted to be an entrepreneur in year 10 or 15, but I had to start in year 1. So that's how it goes.
yes, that is absolutely correct. And that is so much of our own experiences in this entrepreneurial journey is this, I want to skip and move forward. I want to fast forward through all these challenges that I'm facing right now. Can we get to the end, please?
Yeah.
We
Careful
miss
what
a
you
lot
wish
along
for.
the way. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Now, early on, then you took on that challenge to start doing coaching and consulting, and I mean that was at a time where today a lot of people will put advertisements out there into um, the internet, into that social space, to be able to get themselves a lot of exposure. And I see a lot more of these individuals who are coming out and becoming coaches or coaching. How was it different then compared to what it's like today for you?
Well, back in the old days, Zach, we did a lot of networking.
Hmm.
I, I I was a member of the different, association groups and chambers of commerce. And so you meet people. My best marketing strategy to grow my training business was to do marketing programs, like to do a free talk. And um, that was really the best way that I built my business back then,
Hmm.
because we didn't have social media, as you're talking about, and we didn't have,
Yep.
there wasn't really possible to buy ads and things. So I did a lot of networking, and I did a lot of programs, and my philosophy, and still is to this day, give people something of value so that they can experience that they got some benefit from interacting with you, from learning from you, and leave them wanting more of that. And so if you can give first, that has always been a good strategy that served me very well. Even with social media and things that I do in my business now, I'm trying to lead with provide content. And that's what gets people excited about, like, oh, that person's pretty smart. That's why I follow certain people, is
Hmm.
because they have something of value that I'm interested in.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you're saying that, I was thinking that that's one of the things I see today is exactly that. People giving things away for free to gain some interest and get people to see what they're doing and what they can offer and provide. But not only that, just to be able to be a giver and to be able to give back, where I think that attracts people to them as well. So I think some of those concepts early on that you were learning from definitely still apply today. Now,
Phew.
along the way, we always face some level of challenges. It's not a straight, direct path to glory along this path of entrepreneurship. Now, what are some of those challenges that you experienced that you've learned from and that you've been able to help share with others?
Well, I certainly, like every entrepreneur, like every person, whether or not you're an entrepreneur, there's always challenges that you're going to face on the
Mhm.
journey. And I think what's fascinating about my story is that a lot of my challenges were what you would call more on the personal realm of things. I certainly had business challenges, but if, by and large, I kept getting better, I kept improving, I kept adding more value to my suite of services, and, um, and my business grew, it grew
Mhm.
steadily, and yes, I had some dips in the road and some down years like everybody does, um, but I think what fascinated me and where I learned most of my lessons and the things that I share in a business context today were things that I learned on the personal end, dealing with a very difficult marriage and dealing with health issues, um, moving, moving my business and my personal life, my family to another state where I didn't really know very many people. So there are all of those things that people deal with in their own lives. And what I have always been able to do, and I don't know if this is sort of an intuitive gift or something that I learned along the way, or just kind of how I'm wired, like other people are wired to understand technology. I didn't get that wiring. I got the wiring that says you're going to be able to connect the dots in unrelated areas and come up with lessons that can help you everywhere. And so, an example of that would be some of the stories I tell in my one woman theater show, like when the chair fell out from under me when I was on stage in high school doing Grease, and how when I tell that story now, I turned what was the most embarrassing moment of my life in that moment into that lesson where that moment when I learned you have to find the funny to turn a bad situation around when things go awry. And so when I share with a business audience, like I do in my keynotes, I do a lot of keynotes for big conferences. And when I talk about this story that this lesson that I learned that's relevant in your business, but I learned it in a high school play, people kind of scratch their head. But then when I ask them, who was a big influence in your life that shaped the kind of leader you are today or the kind of entrepreneur you are today? And I would say my experience, and I've asked this question to thousands of people across very different industries and in different keynotes over the years, people, I'd say 80% of the time, are telling me it's a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, a coach, a neighbor, a friend, and has nothing to do with somebody that they met in business. So, I think we have to learn from all aspects of our lives and pull those lessons into our business life.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's definitely very relevant to consider. Just those early influences that are in our lives, and how you can take a situation and really learn from it and turn it into something that you can continue to move forward with. Now, I am picturing you falling off a chair. Do you actually fall off a chair during your comedy show?
I do not. Well, I do stand-up comedy now, so I'm actually
Okay.
standing. There's no sitting involved. That's because that was probably a very traumatic experience. And just for the record, I didn't actually fall off the chair. The chair literally
Sure.
broke out from under me.
Oh
Like
no. Okay.
like when you sit down and the chair does not support you. And
Yes.
just for the record,
Oh.
if you're wondering, I'm a very proportionate young lady. It was just so it wasn't anything like that. It was just the chair just wasn't having any part of it.
Yeah, make sure the structural integrity of the furniture is still intact
Yes,
before your
yes,
performance.
that
Yes.
that would have been
Okay.
smart.
Well, let me ask you then, in regards to the comedy show, what are some of the other lessons that you have been able to then convey during that, or that you've taken these early examples in your life and shared them with businesses or other leaders?
Well, many times throughout my life, anytime I told my father something wasn't possible, my father would always ask me the same question, which was, who chiseled that over the door? Like I would
Mhm.
say, Dad, I'll never make the cheerleading team. And he said, who chiseled that over the door? Which I think was his version of who carved that in stone. I don't know.
Yeah.
But basically what he was doing was he was challenging my assumptions, right? He
Mhm.
and what I learned from that was that questions change outcomes, because I did make the cheerleading team. And I remember when I told him, I was too young to be a sales manager. Who chiseled that over the door? Lo and behold, I
Mhm.
became a sales manager, the youngest in Chicago at the time. I even told him I didn't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And he asked me the same question: who chiseled that over the door? And next thing you know, I started a business that I've been running since 1998. So the reason I share that in my theater show is because it's a great example of being always being able to ask ourselves the right questions. You in business, we need to sometimes shift the mindset of other people. They see more as possible for themselves. I know, as a sales coach and as a sales professional for most all of my career, my number one job first, before I could sell all the great stuff that I had, was to open someone's mind to a new possibility, that something different, something new could be better than what they already have. And so I learned very quickly to ask questions like, hey, have you already decided it can't get any better? Or are you open to a new possibility? And that was another version, right? I didn't say who chiseled that over the door, but I learned that questions change outcomes. And so I share that story in my theater show. The way that I do it if you were to see the show in an actual theater, like an evening entertaining performance, it's a fun, engaging story. And then I can tell that same story, but tell it as a keynote for a conference in more of a business context. And it's the same message. I just tell it a little bit differently so it's appropriate for the venue, and the mindset that you're in when you're receiving the story. And I think that in itself is a good lesson, to make sure that we are mindful of the environment in which you are communicating, and to be have the appropriate message in the right environment.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a big, that's really important, because I also do stand-up comedy in comedy clubs, and I promise you, there are things I say on a comedy club stage I would never say in my keynote stage at a big conference, or any size conference. But you have to understand the venue that you're in and what's appropriate. The way that I would speak to 1,000 people in a conference is very different than how I might occur in a one-on-one podcast interview. So
Mhm.
same
Yeah.
messaging, same n- uh, same message, but a different delivery style.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I have to ask you, because a lot of people want to have hobbies in their life and activities that they engage in that may relate some to their business and their ventures that they're involved with. But maybe they're an escape from that, and there's something that they just enjoy doing. When you talk about stand-up comedy and doing the one woman theater show and other involvement, and it also sounds like you were involved in theater in high school. Is this for you? Has that always been something that you've engaged in as you became an adult and moved on from high school, or is that something that you brought back into your life as you realized everyone needs these things in our lives to be able to just have some balance and some things we enjoy?
Well, I think, like most people, when you go through phases of your life, like I knew I enjoyed performing and being in front of people, and making people laugh, entertaining people in my young life. And then for many years, while I was, building a career, and then starting a family and raising a family, those things took a back seat to other things that I enjoyed, that were, really more about other people. And as my family has grown up and moved on, and now I'm able to really kind of look back and say, what was it that nurtured me? what
Mhm.
what makes me happy? And I found new hobbies and new things that I enjoy doing, but that return to performing and stages I mean, I'm lucky because in my career, I always had an opportunity to be on stage, but a lot of the training and workshops and keynotes and things, that was really more about the content and it was less about the performance. And what
Mhm.
I've been able to do as of late, since really kind of getting back to my theater roots and sharpening my comedy skills, I've been able to take the keynotes programs that probably were more content based and maybe less entertainment at early in my early years, and really wrap some more entertainment and some humor in to those business experiences. So now my business actually feels more like the stuff that I would do for free. Don't tell my clients that. Don't tell my clients that. But what they pay me for is, dealing with the airports and getting on planes to go
Yes.
to wherever they're having their meeting. Once I'm on stage, like that's the fun part.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it's been an enhancement as well in your business as well as your personal life. But I wanted to ask about that because I think on a personal side, for every individual who might be listening to this, that we also need to reevaluate at times what our activities are, what fills us up, what brings us joy, and we can reintegrate those things back in or find them as well.
I think that's so important because, at the end of the day, people do business with people. And we all have heard the adage, people would do business with people they like and people they know, like, and trust and all that. Well, you got to give them a little something to sink their teeth into. And the
Mhm.
more you are in love with the things that bring you joy in your life, the more enjoyable of a person you are going to be around. I just happen to enjoy things that really make people laugh. And that's, but everybody likes to laugh. And I think now more than ever, we need more laughter in our lives. It blows my mind. Some people go to comedy clubs like once a year for a special occasion or something. If I'm not performing on a comedy stage once a week, I am consuming comedy, at least that. Like it's like a drug for me, and I actually don't even understand how everyone doesn't do that because it's a beautiful thing. You got to laugh.
Yeah.
You got to have more laughter.
Absolutely. Yeah, that laughter and joy in our lives. And again, the attraction that can bring for your business and for other people that want to be around you because of that.
Yeah.
Now, other passions for some people, writing can be a passion. Now, for you, you've written a couple of books. Talk to us a little bit about how that came about and what are those books about?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely in that camp where writing is a passion. I mean, as a kid, I wrote journals. I have journals from when I was 10. Um, and I in the radio business, I would write commercials. I wrote 2 books, only one of which is officially published. The other one is still in the finishing stages. But I'm a playwright. I wrote the entire one woman show. I had a
Yep.
co-author on that one. But I think that, writing is um, important in terms of being able to sort through some of your own feelings and ideas, your creativity. And so it's been a good experience for me. It's been therapeutic in a lot of cases. I'm able to go back and reread my journals. So when I was dealing with a frustrating marriage, as an example, I could kind of look back and go, oh, that thing that's frustrating me now, look at that frustrated me 10 years ago. Like, huh, that's interesting. And even in business, it's fun to read about the sales I made early in my career and how over the moon excited I was for this amount of money that, like, I wouldn't even bat an eyelash at now. But like back in the day, I'm like, oh, I closed a $5,000 deal, and now I'm like, oh my god. But, it's just, but you can see your progress. And I think that's one of the things I really love about writing is it really captures where's your mindset and where are your skills and where's your knowledge in that moment in time. And then you can look back on that and, and see. And sometimes I write things that, I don't even know that I was having that thought until I see it on the page. So I have a daily writing practice. I have 2 daily writing practices, actually. One is one of my comedy journals. I have journals and I label all different ways. Like I have a business one and a comedy one and a acting one, and so I just grab the right journal when I want to be in that mindset. But I have a daily business writing habit, and the first thing I do before I check my email is I set the timer on my phone for 15 minutes, and I just kind of get my head in the game. What's on my mind today? What did I accomplish yesterday? What do I want to accomplish today? Um, how am I feeling? Like I just kind of just write it all out.
Yeah, I like that. I think that is something that more people could benefit from, but we often hear, if you talk to somebody about it, oh, I'm just too busy. I don't think I can find the time to do that. But you gave a perfect example. Take 15 minutes,
Yeah.
put a timer on. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be
that I think that really is liberating. I do that with my comedy too, because when you're writing stand-up comedy, I don't know, maybe it's different for all comedians. For me, I don't sit down and say, "Today I'm going to write a joke." I just write. And so my strategy is I set my timer for 3 minutes and I write down all the topics that are just on my mind. And it could be a million different things. I have to get the house painted. I need to pick up groceries. My boyfriend's coming home tomorrow. Like it's just like it could
Mm,
be anything. And then I look at the list for the next minute or so, and I just highlight the topics that kind of jump off the page that I want to explore a little deeper. And then I set my timer a third time for 20 minutes about, and I just start writing on whatever that one topic was that I did out of my data dump. And sometimes a joke happens on the page, and sometimes there's kernels of the ideas, and there's something else that I want to explore a little later. But I think the art of the discipline and the habit of writing is just it's just really valuable. And it, it's like you're talking to your best friend. you know
yeah.
if you're writing and you happen to be a smart coach, you're getting some great coaching.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. And as you said, you can reflect back on things that occurred in the past. You can learn
Yeah.
from those experiences that may then be something you draw on to help others in the future, or to put into content that you're creating for something in the future. Over time, shifting gears a little bit, over time, your business, your professional life has evolved to a certain extent. What would you say like your ideal client type situations are today and your professional experience and your business?
Professionally, I mean, I just got back from Florida last week, where I was the opening keynote and MC for a 2-day conference. I loved every second of that. I got to set the tone for the conference. This happened to be in the construction business, but I set the tone for the conference with a keynote about opening your mind to um, opening your mind to new possibilities. Open minds, open doors. And and then throughout the conference, I got to meet more people. I was the MC, so I was introducing other speakers, and I got to listen to them and then take something that I had learned from their session and reiterate it in between the programs. And so I was sort of that consistent presence throughout the conference. And we had a lot of fun, and it was just such a ball, and I got to be funny, and I got to connect with people and provide value. And it was just like check, check, check. That's 100% of what I love to do, and what I'm best at. And then ideally, wherever I am traveling to do a keynote for a client, I would take my theater show and do it while I was in that area. So
Mhm.
sometimes that's a nice 1-2 punch, where I can get a double benefit for my travel time and entertain people on the different stages that I'm good at.
Yeah, absolutely. So keynote speaking is a big part of your professional life now. Do you do any one-on-one coaching with clients, or what does that look like?
I do just a little bit. I have,
Okay.
I always kind of keep a little bit of room in my schedule. One-on-one clients tend to be very flexible, which works with
Mhm.
a travel schedule like mine. Um, I'm not the perfect coach for everybody. I hold people accountable. People don't always like that. Um, but I also don't stick with a lot of the surface. Like sometimes, somebody will ask you a question and they'll bring you an issue, and a coach might just provide some value or just stay on that level. And I tend to like to look a couple levels beyond that. Like, is that really the issue? My experience is that the issue that somebody brings you is never really the issue, and you just have to learn how to dig a little bit deeper, and you have to be comfortable. And that's something that I certainly wasn't early in my coaching career, but now
Mhm.
with 20 some odd years under my belt, I can kind of see through whatever nonsense you're throwing at me out of the gate so that we can deal with the real thing.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of that. Mostly I do and that coaching consulting work, I'm more working with leadership teams and sales teams. So I
Mhm.
have an expertise in emotional intelligence, and I have more like bigger consulting projects and retainer clients that kind of
Yeah.
use me for their entire leadership team. So everyone on the leadership team would get an assessment and one-on-one coaching time with me, and then we look at how the trends that we've learned uh, are relevant for the whole group, and then I do some training to improve on their management or leadership or sales skills. So I'm very much a leadership and sales coach consultant specific to emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's such an important factor to consider in our working together with other people and working with our clients as well. Now, I want to ask you a question I like to ask all my guests. If you were to be handed $1 million today, no questions asked, no strings attached, how would you invest that in your business or another endeavor, and why?
That is a fantastic question. I think I'd like to have you actually give me $1 million so I can, really give you the best answer from experience. Um, let's see. I think right now the thing that is most exciting to me is sharing my theater show. So I would probably take that $1 million investment, and I would get my show out there. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but definitely it would be maybe somebody like somebody to help me grow that part of the business. I'm
Yeah.
sort of doing it a little bit slower than I would like because it's just me on that side of the house. Um, but yeah, I could see putting together a tour, and I would actually, if I had $1 million to for just that, I would give it away. I would do what I said at
Sure.
the very beginning of our call. I would give it away for free as a performance piece for groups that really needed um, that inspiration and that jolt of humor and the
Yeah.
lessons. I think I would give it away. Right now, I'm looking to do it as a fundraiser opportunity. So
Yeah.
things that make sense with the show: breast cancer, ovarian cancer, um,
Mhm.
going through transitions, divorce, like the things that are part of the show. Um, I'd like to use this piece as a way that they can generate money, um, so that I can kind of feel like my creativity is doing some good out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. And like that giving back, that we come back around to that at the end of this conversation. Now, if our guests want to reach out to you to find out more about what you're doing, connect with you, see where they can watch your one woman comedy show or find you at the comedy club, what's the best way for someone to connect with you?
The best way is my website, which is meritkahn.com, Meritkahn.com. And on that homepage, you'll see the three stages I perform on: conferences, theaters, and comedy clubs. And whichever button you press will take you to the experience that you would like to have. But either on the theater page and on the comedy page, there is a link to find out where you can get tickets, where I'll be performing. I perform across the country. So you never know. I could be somewhere where you are.
Coming to a theater near you. I love
Exactly.
it. Definitely encourage others to reach out to Merit at meritkahn.com. Again, meritkahn.com. That will be in the show notes so that you can find that as well. So thank you again, Merit, for this conversation today. It's been a pleasure.